Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. AJ here, and today I'm actually going to start an interesting challenge. This is going to be the Go with the Flow for 7 days challenge. Now, this is kind of an interesting one to me because it has to do with paying attention, kind of listening to your inner core, your inner sort of emotional compass, if you will. Typically, I've noticed that in most situations in life, there are often things which I feel like I want to do in the moment, and then there are things which I feel like I should be doing, things which will be beneficial for my sort of long-term, well-being and whatever the case may be, right? Like, okay, maybe you got to focus on the bottom line, you got to focus on some work, you got to focus on, expanding your business, you got to, do what's going to be good, what you think is going to be most beneficial, right? Now, the problem with that, even though that has actually worked out pretty well, but the problem with that is that in doing such a thing, you kind of dislodge from your sort of center, from your sort of flow center, I guess you could say. Because here's the thing, what I've noticed, if I look back in my life, and what I've noticed is that the things I've often been attracted to and just felt like doing have, in retrospect, actually potentially been a lot of very beneficial things that could have transpired in very beneficial and say lucrative ways, because a lot of what I sort of do day to day is all honestly sort of entrepreneurial business, online business, and that sort of stuff, right? I'm kind of a bit of a hustler in that regard. I'm always going, right? But here's the thing, oftentimes I have an interest or an intrigue or something that I just enjoy doing, which I think, okay, hey, that seems cool. But before I focus on that, okay, let's say for my example, right? It's like before I focus on something like learning video game design, which seems cool to me, right? That seems fun. Before I focus on that, let's focus on this other business idea, this other sort of, let's say, software development or something that I think is more likely to have a business and let's say a monetary value, right? So instead of focusing on what I'm kind of passionate about, what sort of intrigues me, what sort of feels like it's coming from my emotional center, emotional core, instead I often say, okay, I'm going to put that aside and I'm going to focus on what I think is more responsible, right? I don't know, maybe you guys do this. But here's the challenge for the week. I'm going to do Sunday to Sunday of 1 week of entirely going with the flow. Entirely just going with what my emotional core center feels like doing moment to moment. I'm going to put aside any sort of thoughts of, hey, this seems like the responsible thing to do, right? Like this seems like the most valuable way to spend my time, right? Because this has an actual application that could come into fruition and you could, make a bunch of money on this or that or whatever, right? Like I said, I'll do a lot of what I do is online business, and so I'm kind of always kind of thinking that sort of thing. But I have also some other, interests, right? Like I'm really into music, I'm really into game development and design, and the thing is there's like other things that I could focus on and that don't necessarily seem like they ever actually have or they have much potential to go anywhere, let's say, right? Like, okay, maybe getting into filmmaking or movie making, well, what are the chances that's going to go anywhere? All right, and so that stops me. I'm like, okay, let's figure out the bottom line and get everything sorted out really well, and then we'll get into the stuff that seems like it probably won't go anywhere, but it'll be fun to do, right? Like, because that seems like the responsible way to do it. The problem with this, like I say, is that it applies a certain degree of stress into sort of like, I think, your core being, right? And instead of, I think, experiencing life and just kind of feeling all those good feels moment to moment by kind of following the things that you're most passionate about, instead of that, kind of like grind to accomplish goals, right? We kind of like grind against the harmony and balance of the internal being, the internal well-being, to accomplish goals and to achieve things that theoretically should bring happiness, right? And should just like make us more relaxed in the future, as the case may be. That's typically never the case. It's what I've noticed. You get to one level, and then there's the next level, and you get to the next level, and there's the next level, and it never really ends. You never really stay happy for too long, no matter where you go or what you do. Like that just seems to be the human condition. Anyway, so I'm going to try this. Because the funny thing is, right, when I look back at some of the things I felt attracted to, if I had actually gone in on those things, like kind of gone all in on those things, a lot of those things, looking back, I think probably would have actually put me in a situation, got me in on something early enough in the right time, whatever, where it could have actually potentially been dramatically better than what I thought was the responsible thing to do. And okay, yeah, I'm set up, pretty well here, and I can actually do something like spend an entire week just going with the flow, right? Because I've got my business on autopilot, and that's kind of a nice thing. I don't need to pay attention to it if I don't want to. And so this sort of challenge is, I think, good if you can find the actual time to do it. It might be a little bit harder to do, if you're bound to like a daily job or that sort of thing, right? But I think the fundamental core of the idea is there, and that is connecting to the emotional center, and from that discovering whether or not our emotional center, our emotional core well-being, like our emotional compass, if you will, could potentially lead us to not only better feels, like better feelings, but potentially even better results, right? Potentially even better results. By following our internal emotional compass, instead of doing what we think is going to be the best for us, the responsible thing, could it potentially lead us to better results? That is the question that I'm curious about, and that is going to be the sort of heart of this 1 week Sunday to Sunday challenge. So I'm going to, update every day or 2 or 3 or something like that and let you know how it goes. Okay, hey, hope you've enjoyed this video.